Hey everyone, and welcome to another podcast of Alexandra Mayers Live Painting Edition. Today's a little bit of a different painting edition of Alexandra Mayers Live because I've decided to allow you to see me, but I'm sure most of you know what's going on over here anyway. But I'm going to start a piece tonight, and I decided to title it Apology Negated. And I want to give y'all a little bit of the idea behind the painting, the vibe, the energy behind it. It's about a woman who's been through a lot, but it's through her eyes, through her vision, through her perspective. It's actually about a guy. Yes, a guy. A guy who she normally wouldn't have come across, but she decided to reactivate her dating profile one morning when she was feeling the urge to get a little bit physical with someone. Was it the best choice? That's neither here nor there. She met the guy. He was decent. They had a good time. She figured, hey, one night stand. That's it. But then the guy comes back at her. And this guy, he rides a motorcycle. He's a badass. He's from Motor City. Someone who did a little MMA fighting, has a bunch of tattoos, but has an inner softer side, or at least that's how he wants to present himself as being. So he asks her out on a date Friday night. They go jetting up Federal Highway in South Florida, end up at some sort of an Irish pub, do some karaoke, have a few drinks, have another great night. She's thinking, hey, maybe I misjudged. Maybe this wasn't a one night stand after all. But then she doesn't hear from him for 7 days. Dun, dun, dun. Now, if this woman had been in her 20s, she probably would have felt a little bit more about it. But this woman's old. This woman has been there, done that, seen more than that guy who she met probably could ever imagine. In fact, this particular woman whose perspective I'm going to be painting this particular piece from, she was thinking for a little bit upon the end of their date. Oh, how am I going to tell him about my past? But then at the end of the date, especially after she realized that this guy just might be a drug dealer, she decided, maybe I don't need to say a damn word. So she never did. Now, lo and behold, 7 days after that 7 days goes by, she hears from the guy, and he's got every excuse under the sun as to why he didn't call. But again, this girl didn't care. And she said, hey, I wish you well. May you ride off into the sunset on your motorcycle. Old man, living in the past, trying to be young, even though you're pushing 50. Doesn't hear anything else for about 3 days, but then she hears from him again, 8 a.m, him apologizing in the first tweet. But then in the second tweet, or should I say text, he asked her to come over for some more fun. So the woman responds, wow, you just negated that apology. You just negated it in just 2 texts. So that's what this painting's about. I have to do a few things before I get started. So I'm going to play a little music for you guys before I sit down over here. I hope you're all having a good Saturday. If I don't come back on camera before Thanksgiving, happy Thanksgiving, everyone. This year I have a lot to be thankful for, and I hope all of you do as well. I decided to drop out and trust it would all work out okay. You have to believe the dots will somehow connect in your future. If you're working on something exciting you really care about, You don't have to be pushed. The vision pulls you. And most important, have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. They somehow already know what you truly want to become. Everything else is secondary. This is a little song called Leaving for Mars. I wrote it, and it's really simple. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, whatever time it is, wherever you are. Welcome once more to another podcast of Alexandra Mayers, Just Some Thoughts. Now, before the weekend gets underway, I wanted to share a thought in regards to the current political events surrounding the Kavanaugh allegations, Roe versus Wade, in other words, rape and abortion. These are things that need to be at the forefront of every young American woman's mind. Not only if you are a white American woman, that's what my previous two Alexandra Mayers Just Some Thoughts podcast revolved around, but I'm talking about every woman. And for those of you who are listening who don't know what I look like, I am undeniably a Black American woman. But tonight, let's talk about good versus evil and the element of free will. I don't care what your religious background is, what your cultural background is. I believe that every human being with a soul has at least an inkling in regards to the element of free will and why free will should be protected above all else. I feel like that is what makes us human. If you look at pretty much every religion that's ever been, the element of free will is at the center of whatever theology or whatever religion it is that you're looking at. And when I look at abortion, okay, here's what I think. And this is just me. Sometimes I'm a little silly. Other times I'm serious. Sometimes I'm a hybrid between being silly and serious. Okay. But I think abortion came about basically as a way to level the playing field between men and women. I feel that at certain points in time, there has been a force out there that's looked around and thought to itself, so these men think that they can do whatever it is the hell that they want to do. I'm going to fix their ass, hence abortion. Then I think that that same force looked around a little bit later and was like, no, wait a minute. Some of these women seem like they're a little bit too powerful and they're doing whatever it is that they want. I'm going to make it to where I take abortion away. All right. I think that we're living in a time right now to where so many people are knowledgeable in regards to the practice of abortion. You'll never be able to take it away. But I think an effort of this particular force, a force of darkness, a force of evil, has decided, all right, well, we can't get rid of abortion. It's too late. But we can somehow make it normal for rape to be okay, for no one to even bat an eye at. And you would think that in the times that we live in right now, times post Steve Jobs' existence, times in which realistically a young person doesn't even have to go to college anymore to learn how to dominate the world. They could just have an iPad, read the internet, and learn everything it is that they need to learn. But yeah, I think that's what it is that we're looking at right now. And I think that the primary reason is because, and I know a lot of people are going to get mad at me when I say this, but I'm going to say it. There's quite a few men out there who have absolutely no hope of reproducing unless they can get away with rape. All right. Let's look at this woman who has decided to back Kavanaugh. Her name is Susan Collins. She doesn't surprise me, but for reasons that you probably wouldn't anticipate me thinking. Now, initially, when I saw Susan Collins was backing Kavanaugh, I thought to myself, well, okay, let's see who she is. So I look her up on my iPad and I see, okay, she's a white woman. All right. She comes from a family of politicians. Okay. And I thought to myself, okay, does Susan Collins have a son who perhaps thinks along the lines of Kavanaugh? No, she doesn't. She actually doesn't have any children. Not one. She didn't get married until later in her life, actually. So when I read that and I learned that, I thought to myself, oh, so here's what it is. It's one of two things, actually. She either, one, had a chance of having children at one point in time and didn't and regrets it, or two, because she has, I would assume, chosen not to have any children, she needs to pay back into the system that she's a part of in some way. And to make up for not reproducing herself, she needs to ensure that others are born who likely wouldn't have been born was it not for rape. Yeah. When I look at the men who I've known throughout life and who I'm aware of in life, who seem to be very forgiving of the crime of rape, I personally feel that anyone who rapes someone, I think that they should have their penis sliced off. That's just my opinion. That's how I feel. But when I look at who seem to be okay with it, I question, are you okay with it because you know that that's the only way that you have a hope of breeding? Or is it okay to you because you have a secret? And is that secret the fact that you would not have been born were it not for someone having raped your mother. Yeah, that's a very dark thought, I know, but it's something that crossed my mind today. I actually tweeted a little bit earlier that it would be a very interesting sci-fi movie if someone were to write a script specifically about an invasion of aliens, and the only way that they're able to properly reproduce or adequately reproduce is through the crime of rape. Because if such a situation were to happen, what would the aliens first do? They would get themselves into power. They would legalize the crime of rape and go from there. They would make it illegal to have an abortion. Of course, there would be people who still could perform them, but it would be a lot more difficult to have an abortion should they come into power rather than they not. But again, this was just something that I thought about today. So as I was thinking about these dark thoughts and whatnot, and as I was putting together actually a tip list for women that I plan on posting later in effort to at least attempt to further safeguard yourself against these damn rapists, I thought to myself, I wonder how many desirable celebrities there are out there who may embody my mindset of choosing not to have children, because I'm looking at these men and some women too who are trying to legalize rape, get rid of abortion. I'm thinking, why are they doing this? It's got to be about population control in some capacity. Now, I've thought for years that there are actually too many people on Earth. A lot of people are like, you're a globalist. Yes, I actually am. Yeah. But just as there are too many people on Earth, there's also not enough people on Earth that are of the quote unquote right genetics. And don't worry, I'm not Hitler. I'm not trying to, do some eugenics or anything over here, but I'm just saying there's a lot of people, women especially, of all ethnic backgrounds, who think about like I do and who are looking at the world like, I'm not bringing anyone into this mess. And because of our legal system, thank God for it right now, at least, we're safeguarded. No one can force us to have any children, because it was not very long ago that women really had no choice. It's like, hey, if a guy could catch you, you're having his kid. That's how it used to be. Fortunately, we women, we've gained some ground, but they're trying to, take our rights away again. So again, look, I decided to look on the internet just to see, okay, who exactly is childless? Who do the powers that be? Who are they looking at in regards to, why hasn't that one had any kids? Why are they rejecting our sperm? Why are they running from us? So I actually found a list. I just Googled celebrities who have never had kids, and I'm going to read to you the list. And it's very interesting. Like, I think that they ranked these people from most desirable to least desirable, even though they're all desirable people when it comes to them likely should have procreated to leave some of their genes behind. Number 1, Betty White. I did not know that she didn't have any children. Number 2, Dolly Parton. Yeah. Helen Mirren. And, look at those 3 first that I just read. Okay? All you white supremacists out there who enjoy listening to me for whatever sick reason. Those are 3 of your girls who basically said, I'm not doing this shit. All right. Number 4, Condoleezza Rice. But a lot of people wish that she would have procreated. Number 5, Oprah Winfrey. People wish that there were a bunch of little Oprahs running around. Don't worry, I'm not her child. Here's a man, Jay Leno. Isn't that surprising? You would think Jay Leno would have a bunch of kids, but no, he doesn't. Not too late, though. He's only 67. Let's skip down the list a little bit. Oh, Renee Zellweger. Winona Ryder. And you know that a lot of men wanted her to have their child. Chelsea Handler. And she's a troublemaker. Katharine Hepburn. Queen Latifah. Yeah, they've been after Queen Latifah. I don't think that's going to happen. They did get Janet Jackson, though. They managed to get Janet Jackson to breed. She had a very high price. All right, Kim Cattrall. Oh, Bo Derek. A lot of people wanted Bo Derek. She said no. Diane Sawyer. And do you see a certain pattern with these women, too? They're all very influential. And the man that I mentioned, Jay Leno, very influential, very powerful people, didn't have children. The children would have slowed them down. That's what some of this is. Let's see, who else do we have here? Rachel Ray, Ashley Judd, Matt Dillon, James Woods. That's interesting. For some reason, I thought he would have had children. Angelica Houston, Patrick Swayze. I would have thought he would have, but he doesn't. Anne Margaret, Ellen DeGeneres, Aisha Tyler, Liza Minnelli, Fran Drescher, Christopher Walken, Hair, and Pam Grier, and the list goes on. I mean, this is a very long list, surprisingly, but yeah, seems to me like someone is definitely thinking to themselves, all right, so you have these types of people who are not breeding, so we got to do something about it because it's control, and it's about attempting to supersede free will, in my opinion, at least. But then I had another thought. I thought to myself, okay, who of note, who is famous that may have been conceived through rape? Now, we're never going to have an accurate list when it comes to this. People are not going to admit this. But there are a few people who are known. And would you like to know one of the most well-known people? Jesse Jackson. Yeah. Jesse Jackson, Eartha Kitt, Frederick Douglass, Ethel Waters, John Cox, that was a presidential candidate, James Robinson, he was a televangelist. It's a long list. I'm not even going to read them all. But I think that that's what we're looking at here. We're looking at someone or something, some power that has decided the people that we want to have kids are not having kids. The people we don't want to have kids are having kids. How are we going to equal that playing field? How are we going to take away the free will? What are we going to do? So, women, if you are a woman who is along the lines of myself, and trust me, I thought that at this phase of my life, I wouldn't even have to worry about this kind of stuff. But you have women who are my age and older. I'm actually on the damn younger end of the spectrum, who are being abducted, trafficked, whatnot. I still have at least 15 more years until I have to go through menopause. So, it doesn't matter how old you are anymore. It used to be just the girls in their 20s, teens that they're after, but now it's the older ones too, because the older ones without kids, we're the ones that they're looking at like, what are we going to do here? So keep yourself safe. Learn some sort of self-defense techniques. Don't go out at night acting stupid. Try to stay away from the drugs and alcohol. Stay off the dating websites. If you're looking for love, I believe that all that is will bring the proper love into your life, okay? Without you even looking for it, without you having to try. But you do have a lot of these psychos out there, male and female, who want to circumvent your free will, who want to rape you, who want to force you to have a child, and you do not have to do that. Okay? Don't put yourself in a situation to where you can be victimized by these jerks. But that's about it for tonight. Have a great weekend, everyone. Once more, this was Alexandra Mayers. Just some thoughts. And remember, you can always catch up with me on my official website, alexandramayerslive.com. Bye-bye. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, whatever time it is, wherever you are. Welcome once more to another podcast of Alexandra Mayers, Just Some Thoughts. Now, this podcast is just going to be a bit of a rant, all right? Because there's something I noticed on Twitter in regards to someone who I foolishly labeled my best friend several years ago, all right? This woman, or female rather, I'm not even going to call her a woman, I'm going to call her a female. This female, formerly known as Desi Fox, has the audacity to be on Twitter claiming that someone who is questioning her in regards to her past as an adult entertainer is somehow a troll linked to Randazza Legal Group. I doubt it. Last time I checked, it's fairly easy to see exactly who the female known as Desi Fox used to be. All right. And I have kept my mouth shut about this for such a long time, but I've just had it because when I look at the lies and the hypocrisy coming from this woman, it's so sick. She has the nerve to complain about a law firm that gave her a pass, most likely due to her white privilege, yet sued me for initially $500,000. Really? Let me tell y'all something. Anyone out there, whoever crosses the female formerly known as Desi Fox, do not believe anything that comes out of her mouth. Just don't. Because this woman will do anything to save herself. She will lie, she will cheat. She might be one of the most dangerous predators on the planet from my perspective. Just considering the roller coaster of a ride that she took me on. I cannot believe that she has the nerve to say one word to the leading managing partner of Randazza Legal Group, considering that he gave her a pass. I cannot believe that she has the nerve to criticize anything that anyone linked to that legal group does, considering that they are probably some of the most instrumental people when it comes to the political party that she backs, meaning those behind Trump. So I just wanted to share that tonight because it's really aggravating. I'm actually going to have to just take a step back from social media at this stage, because when I look at the lies and the hypocrisy that are just coming out of people's mouths that I've known over the years, people that I know the truth about, it's just too much for me. It's too much for me, which is why I am very likely going to have to leave the United States of America, because I'm too sensitive of a person. I'm too good of a person to deal with these monsters. So if you ever hear this, female formerly known as Desi Fox, just know that there is one person on this planet who knows exactly what you are, and you need to drop to your knees and thank whatever it is that your higher power is, that I am the kind of person that I am, because you are sick. You are a sick, twisted female who, really, it's people like you, why people like me could never be Republicans. So once again, thanks for listening to another podcast of Alexandra Mayers, Just Some Thoughts. Have a good night. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever time it is, wherever you are. Welcome once more to another podcast of Alexandra Mayers' Just Some Thoughts. I was working on some music tonight, and so many thoughts were running through my mind that I felt the need to go ahead and put together a podcast which encompasses quite a few of them because we're at such an interesting time in history, and so many of the themes that are in the public consciousness in regards to politics, humanity, society are themes that have directly affected my life for such a long time. I was thinking in particular about Steve Jobs. I was thinking about his history and the life journey that he embarked on. I was thinking about reading about his spiritual journey as well that he went on, which led to him creating the personal computer. And I was thinking about how much that has drastically affected so many of our lives. It really has. I mean, it's equaled the playing field in such a vast way that it's astounding. It's amazing to me, actually, that people don't talk about it more. But I was particularly thinking about systems, operating systems. I've thought to myself, if I were ever to run for president of the United States, which is something I could feasibly do in the future, my slogan would be Alexandra Mayers for president, upgrading America's operating system, because that is something that needs to happen. America needs an upgrade when it comes to its operating system because America was never built on a stable operating system, at least not from my perspective. It's really bothered me tremendously over the past couple of weeks, really, when it's come to the themes revolving around Donald Trump and Brett Kavanaugh. Before I get into that, I want to talk a little bit about me and my personal life. I'm really glad I've had the chance to come back home, what I consider to be one of my homes, at least here in South Florida, because I left South Florida around 2008 for the West Coast of the United States, for California, to embark on a career within the adult entertainment industry. Yeah. And I don't regret it. Not at all. There have been a lot of people who have tried to get me to regret it. People who I thought were my friends were some of my greatest enemies in actuality. But since coming back here to Florida, it's been such an interesting experience because I did not keep in contact with a lot of the individuals that I grew up with, not at all. But since I've been back here, strangely, just in my day-to-day life, I often encounter some of their children, running errands, going to the grocery store and whatnot. And what's funny about me is for those of you who have never seen me, who have only heard me here on Alexandra Mayer's Just Some Thoughts, I look very young for my age, extremely so. It's actually a little bit freaky. And a lot of the young people that I encounter initially think that I'm their age, and I'm not. And I'm someone, I love to play with my look. I do different things with my hair. I do different things with my style of dress. But what I've noticed in particular in my neighborhood is that the young Black women who see me, teenagers, sometimes young women in their 20s, I notice that things I do, they emulate. So it's kind of made me wonder exactly how influential. I don't think that they know me from my adult entertainment persona because they don't know me personally, really, for the most part. What's going on? And it's just kind of hit me today. It's been an instance of what I like to define as butanity, which is my latest song that I put out. It's a conjuncture of the words beautiful and sanity, because that's how I chalk up most of life nowadays. But it just kind of hit me. I'm like, if I'm influencing people around me this much, how far could my influence go? Why shouldn't I shape the world more so to be along the lines of what I think the world should be? So I'm going to give it a shot. I think everyone should give it a shot if they find that they have that power within themselves, truthfully. But being that I noticed that I'm a bit of a trendsetter, I think I want to set some more trends when it comes to how young Black women in America look at life. Because it seems like there's so many people trying to tell young Black women how to think, how to vote, what to be, how to act. And a lot of these people who are saying these things are not young Black women. In many cases, the young Black women who are bestowing these ideals upon Black women are not receiving influence from other Black women. And I find that to be a problem, because I think I have a pretty solid experience of what it is to be a young Black American woman who's almost 40 years old now. So when I look at my project of butanity, I think every single element of that is going to be specifically geared towards young Black women and what I feel may be their best bet in life for success. Because I have really lived, when I think about it, when I look at my life so far, on the cusp of almost 40 years old, I've basically lived about 3 different lifetimes all rolled into one. A lot of people think I should write a book, but I'm still in the midst of the book. I'd say that I'm not even up to chapter 5. Believe it or not, I really don't. I got to get around to doing a reading, actually, of Omarosa Manigault Newman's book, Unhinged, because that's quite the interesting read, but that's for another podcast. It's really disturbed me when it's come to the essential outing of quite a few white American women in America. It really has. It's made me think back to my childhood, my teenage years, my young adult years, because I've always been surrounded by so many white American women. And looking back, I cringe. Not due to racism, not due to prejudice or bigotry, but due to the actions that I've only realized in hindsight that certain white American women have enacted against me. Over the past day or so, I've really been reevaluating my, at least what I defined as a friendship with a woman who was a porn star who did porn with her daughter, believe it or not, known as Desi Fox. And because I think the best of people, that's how I was raised, I turned a blind eye to some absolutely atrocious and despicable activity that she engaged in. And the reason I did so was because it was just not in my scope of reality that an individual could think as she does. And when I look today at her social media accounts, the things that she has the audacity to say, I literally want to vomit. I really do. But a lot of her actions do revolve around white privilege, something that she appears to be desperate to hold on to. But she's not alone. She actually has a very common mentality. She's a very common woman from my perspective, believe it or not. She is. She was in a very extreme circumstance, but she's very common. There's nothing special about her. Not at all. When I look at how this Brett Kavanaugh individual has received a public pass in regards to some of his actions. I should say alleged actions, but some of these actions are provable. When I look at these actions that he was willingly allowing himself to engage in, I think to myself, well, he would not be where he is if you didn't have such a vast majority of white American women willing to back him and back the administration in which he's a part of. And I'm talking about the Donald Trump administration. Now, when it comes to Donald Trump, a lot of people I'm sure will disagree with me, but I think that much of what he shows to the public is an act. I think that he is one hell of an actor. But I'll tell you who is not one hell of an actress. His wife, the breeder of his child, and not just her, his first wife, who has gone on public record stating that she speaks to him at least once a week. That's who I look at as being in extreme danger. I look at certain women who happen to be white American women who are very, very adept at playing the victim, but who I look at from my perspective as being some of the greatest predators. Because the mainstream media loves to blame white American males, these old white American males, as being the problem. But are they really? Because they did not pop into existence from out of nowhere. They have mothers who raised them, who groomed them, who taught them, who protected them. These are white American women. Not always American, sometimes they're from somewhere else, but they are white women who, for whatever reason, think that it was okay to groom and raise their sons to believe that slavery, oppression, rape, and a multitude of other heinous crimes against humanity are okay. So I look at the source when I'm looking at a problem. I'm not looking at the symptom of the problem. Something that I tweeted a little bit earlier tonight too had to do with the porn industry. For the almost 7 years, I have really gone to bat as a whole and even personally, case by case in some instances, for quite a few women. Black women, Latin women, but predominantly white women. I've done a lot, and I've endured quite a bit of punishment for doing so. I really have. Faced a lawsuit in the excess of $500,000 by Randazza Legal Group, actually. And when I look at that, and I look at all those situations, all those people I went to bat for, do you realize that really, I'd say less than 1% of the people that I attempted to help ever said thank you? Says a lot. It really, really does. But I'll tell you something. From this day forth, you will never, ever hear me say one thing about how the American porn industry negatively affects white American women. And if you look at my Twitter, you will quickly learn why. But I'll go ahead and tell you, it's because I think that they're okay with every single thing that porn industry dishes out. That's why they're there. I think some do deserve to be there. Quite a few have no problem proclaiming in the streets, it's my body, it's my choice. Well, yes, it is your body and it is your choice. And I think that women such as Gail Dines, a white woman, Shelley Lubin, another white woman. That girl who runs Hookers for Jesus, Annie Lobert. I think that they all wasted their time on you. I most definitely did. And there will no longer be any opposition against any individuals such as Steve Hirsch, the individuals behind the Luxury Companion, white women such as Kelly Roberts, pimps such as Dennis Hoff, because you made your bed so you can lay in it. The way I see it, quite a few American white women within the United States of America would rather cast aside their right to vote than to side with opposition to the Donald Trump administration. So I feel like, look, that's your world. You may as well have it. Something else about the porn industry that hit me in an instance of butanity this evening has to do with interracial porn. A lot of white women like to use interracial porn as their mechanism for an exit. But I'm going to tell you something. To you, the public, you don't need to believe them when they claim that it's so horrible, because it's not. Not at all. I actually think that it's very interesting that interracial porn, for the most part, is defined by a Black man with a white woman. It kind of leads the American public to believe that that's the only kind of interracial relationship that could be, or that's okay or acceptable. And it's actually reflected in mainstream American society, believe it or not. And I'll get into that a little bit later. But it's just a very interesting thing, because I look back at my own relationships that I've had throughout my lifetime, my romantic relationships. I've had quite a few interracial relationships with white males. And considering these Kavanaugh allegations and this outing of white women supporting him, it made me rethink a lot of why some of those interracial relationships from my past ended. Okay. And I'm not going to completely blame white women for them ending, but in hindsight, things that I looked over definitely played a vital part. And I'm just going to go ahead and repeat. When people like to blame old white males, people such as Michael Avenatti for the problems in this world, and in the past, I'm guilty of doing the same thing. I'll take accountability for that. That's not the truth. The truth is the influence of these old white males, white mothers. I was thinking back to a relationship that I had while I was living in Las Vegas. I'm not going to say the individual's name. I'll just call him Jay. Okay, the letter J. Jay was very interesting because as I got to know Jay, I realized that and before me, he was in a long-term relationship with a young woman who actually could have been my doppelganger. She looked exactly like me. Jay was encouraged by his mother not to have interaction with his children, which I thought was interesting. At first, I thought that this influence came from his stepfather, who was a white male. No, it wasn't. It was from the mother. Now, I moved, but she did take some steps to make certain that I was out of his life. I think back to a relationship that I had while I was in the pornographic industry with a man who was a white male. He was not American, he was Canadian. I didn't realize it until today, but things didn't really start to go downhill until I met his sister, who obviously was a white female. I think back to certain, what I consider to be fairly successful relationships that I've had in the past, one that even resulted in a marriage with a white male. The mother wasn't in the picture. So when I look at interracial relationships and the success rate, because I actually looked up a list to see, okay, who are some, celebrities who are multiracial, meaning half black, half white. I want to take a poll and, see how many are the offspring of a black mother and a white father versus a black father and a white mother. Over 80% of the individuals that I was able to find in the list, which I will read to you later at the end of this podcast, are the result of a white mother and a black father versus the opposite. And I did tweet a little bit earlier today. Would Barack Obama have become president had his mother been black instead of white? I don't think he would have. I don't think he would have. And the reason being is because I think that post pre-Civil War American slavery, a lot of white supremacists started to realize, okay, when it comes to the multiracial individuals, the ones who seem to be a problem in regards to eradicating slavery or creating uprisings tend to be the ones with black mothers rather than white mothers. So that's something that we need to squelch. And that's really messed up, isn't it? I personally feel that black women who may enter interracial relationships with white American males need to be very aware and take stock of the white American females around them, because quite often that will be who takes some efforts to stop that relationship. And they'll do so quietly. It's just something that crossed my mind. So before I get into that list, I do want to touch on the issue of Meghan Markle. I think that Meghan Markle should be far more popular and famous in the United States. I think that the reason that she's not is because she is the offspring of a black mother and a white father. I think that that bothers a lot of white American women. I think that they do not like that trend to be something that is pushed into society. I think that's why we don't hear about her very much. I think that they see the royal family in the UK as accepting her as a slap in their face. And I think that every white American woman who feels that way is a bitch. I want to touch on the issue of Trevor Noah. He's someone who all of a sudden has been seen as a problem or controversial. I think that even though he is someone who is basically an international import from South Africa, I think that it bothers a lot of white American women, especially, that he is very pro-black and that his mother was a black woman. I think that part of the reason that Serena Williams, the athlete, the tennis star, receives so much backlash is not from white American males. I think it is from white American females. That is just my opinion, but that is what I think. I think that a lot of this stems from individuals such as Frederick Douglass, whose mother was a black woman who was a slave, who we don't know what the reality is, it's in history, but she likely was raped. I think that a lot of this does circulate around oftentimes children who are the offspring of a black mother and a white father, identifying more so as being black rather than white. And I think that a huge reason quite a few white American women quietly have had an issue with Barack Obama is because though he is the offspring of a white woman and a black man, He chose to marry a Black woman rather than a white woman. And before I really get into this list, I do want to say that I do think that the political activist known as Candace Owens is in extreme danger at this stage. I have been watching her for a while. There's things I agree with, there's things I don't agree with that she says. But regardless, I think that she is an amazing, incredibly intelligent young woman who I believe is being set up for a fall, specifically by white American women who do want to make an example of her. Okay, so now I'm going to get into this list. I found this list on ranker.com. It's famous people who are half Black. Halle Berry. She's the offspring of a white woman and a Black man. Barack Obama, same thing. Mariah Carey, same thing. Dwayne Johnson, his mother appears to be of Samoan heritage. She's essentially Asian. His father is Black. Alicia Keys. Tiger Woods, his mother is Asian. His father is Black. Now, Lenny Kravitz, he's a little different. His mother was Bahamian and of African American descent. His father, Caucasian of Russian and Jewish ancestry. Rashida Jones, father's Black, mother is white of Jewish Russian ancestry. Derek Jeter, white mother, Black father. Bob Marley, he's similar to Lynn's Black mother, white father. Vin Diesel, father's heritage, it's not really disclosed, but his mother appears to be white. But as I go through this list, very few of these celebrities have a Black mother. Lisa Bonet, she did not have a Black mother, Black father though. Jasmine Guy, Black father, white mother. Jennifer Beals, she had a white mother, Black father. Karen Parson, she had a Black mother. Mario Van Peebles had a white mother. Only one I can find on this list is Eartha Kitt. And it says Eartha Kitt's mother was an African American working on a cotton plantation when she gave birth to Kitt. Her father is believed to be a Caucasian son of the owner of the plantation farm where she was born. Sade, white mother. Only one of note that I can really find that really is famous who has a Black mother is Diana Ross's daughter, Tracy Ellis. I mean, the most famous, well-known, multiracial individual as of current that I can think of who has a Black mother is Meghan Markle. That's very interesting to me. Extremely interesting. It's very depressing, actually. Very depressing because it tells me something. It makes me wonder. If you didn't have so many white American women who were racist and prejudiced, would there be more on that list? Who have a Black mother? Would there be more? How many mothers of men who fall in love with Black women are so influential in their sons' lives that they break up that relationship? Makes me reevaluate my entire freaking life. It really does. And I think a lot of Black women out there who have been in interracial relationships that haven't worked out, you need to think about that. And you need to look around at who your friends are. You really do. So that's all for this particular podcast. I'm sorry if this podcast sounds a bit negative and racist, but when I look at just the fact that you have a lot of white American women who are willing to turn a blind eye to rape, assault, abuse, and willing to essentially give up abortion and possibly their right to vote in order to put their sons on a pedestal, meanwhile, sell their daughters out to essential slavery, it does make me quite a bit upset. and I'll probably be upset for quite some time. And I'm sure that the art and music from my project of Butanity will reflect that. But have a great night, everybody. Take care. Once again, this was Alexandra Mayers. Just some thoughts. Good night. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever time it is, wherever you are. Welcome once more to another podcast of Alexandra Mayers, Just Some Thoughts. Now, I just recorded a fairly long podcast, which I will post immediately after I post this one, but I felt like I needed to post this one first. And it has to do with the civil rights of white women. Considering these Brett Kavanaugh allegations and the result post the allegations, considering the Donald Trump administration and how this administration truly would not be were it not for the high percentage, incredibly high percentage of white women who back Donald Trump, who have backed Brett Kavanaugh, being that you have Trump's administration looking to overturn Roe versus Wade, being that you have the Trump administration wanting to turn a blind eye to rape, a blind eye to physical and sexual assault against women. And now we know for a fact that they're willing to do it against white women as well, their own mothers, sisters, daughters, being that we're looking at a situation to where they're trying to take away the right of abortion. Really, should white women be able to vote anymore? Really think about that. Really think about it. I say quite possibly no. They shouldn't be. They should not be able to. And I'm going to tell you why. Because these white American males did not pop into existence from out of nowhere. And that is what people don't want to look at. You have had the mainstream media and quite a few backers of Trump say, oh, yeah, Trump is horrible, but leave his wife Melania alone. Leave Ivana, his first wife, alone. Well, no, I'm not going to leave them alone. Now, the first wife, Ivana, I'm not sure if she ever became an American citizen or not. I'm certain she did, but we know for a fact that Melania has become an American citizen and she brought her parents and her family over. But look at what they were willing to turn a blind eye to. Should they be able to vote? No, not in my opinion. And to justify that even further, let's look at the opposite of the white American woman, the Black American male. Look at how such a high percentage of Black American males are not allowed to vote due to incarceration, due to really piddly felonies that they may have incurred, criminal charges that their counterparts, white males, never incur. I mean, look at how many Black males get in trouble for allegedly pimping, yet you have a legal white male who's a legal pimp, right? Dennis Hoff. So realistically, I mean, if I were in charge of the world, which everyone should hope and pray, I personally never am, I feel like, okay, if such a vast majority of Black American males cannot vote, then let's go ahead and wipe out the white American female vote too. Because it seems to me like they're willing to relinquish those rights anyway, considering their backing of the Trump administration. I think that quite a few of them feel like, okay, for whatever reason, I'm not able to adequately think for myself. And instead, I want my brothers, sons, and fathers to do the thinking for me. I think maybe, quite possibly, the only people who should be able to vote in America are people who immigrate to America legally, white American males, and Black American females. And then let's see how things turn out. All right? Just a thought. Thank you once more for listening to Alexandra Mayers, Just Some Thoughts, and look for my next podcast, which will be fairly long, emotional, extensive, to where I go further into these issues. Because we're just looking at a situation to where it seems like you have quite a bit of white American female influence, but they're willing to back something that will essentially take away their civil rights. I mean, even let's look at the Kardashian clan. She is a white American woman, you know. And who do you have backing Trump that is married to one of her offspring, Kanye West? Something to think about, isn't it? All right. Check me out later on Alexandra Mayers, Just Some Thoughts, or alexandramayerslive.com, because there's something a little strange going on, and I'm not going to stop talking about it until I'm dead. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, whatever time it is, wherever you are. Welcome once more to another podcast of Alexandra Mayers, Just Some Thoughts. So I'm just catching up on the news from this weekend and this evening. And as I'm doing so, it appears that a portion of the mainstream media is attempting to utilize attorney Michael Avenatti as a bit of a scapegoat in regards to the Brett Kavanaugh situation. And really, it doesn't surprise me, because anything to deter the focus from who the real problem is, which is a high percentage of American white women. Of course, that's what the media is going to do, that they've got to get the heat off the American white women, but it's not going to work, at least not from my perspective. But it is a shame that they're doing this to Michael Avenatti. But then again, maybe his ego needs to be deflated a bit, because I think that Michael Avenatti is dynamic. I think that he's an absolutely beautiful man, but I think that he's made a few mistakes since his taking center stage within the realm of mainstream media and politics. For one thing, on his Twitter, when he went on his old white male or old white man rant, that, from my perspective, was a bit comedic, but it also took him down a couple notches, because as far as I can tell, Michael Avenatti is a middle-aged white man. I could be wrong. Maybe he's some other ethnic background that I'm not aware of, but he appears to be a middle-aged white male who is not many years away from being an old white male. So that's kind of like me saying, look at those horrible old black women. It's like, well, I'm a middle-aged black woman, and a lot of people already say I'm horrible. So but anyways, y'all see what I'm saying there. But I think that he was set up to a degree when it came to some of the witnesses and some of the women making allegations against Kavanaugh. I think that some of the women were telling the truth without a doubt. I think some of the women were not. And I think that it was really impossible for Avenatti to be able to differentiate between who was being truthful and who was not. Not because he's not knowledgeable, not because he's not educated, but simply because he's a man. He's a man who wants to be a good man very badly. So that's my assessment of that. But another problem from my perspective that Avenatti has, but I feel he could rectify this, he's too dependent upon his representing Stormy Daniels. And it's really starting to rub me the wrong way, okay? And the reason being is because, sure, Stormy Daniels, to a degree, is brave, to a degree. But to a degree, she's also, when it comes to women's civil rights, from my perspective at least, and when it comes to, quite simply, how she feels about politics. because I guess a lot of people have forgotten about this, but in 2009, there was an incident that she was involved in that circulated around a Republican politician. She actually was going to run for the US Senate as a Republican. Her campaign slogan was going to be, quote, screwing people honestly. You can look this up on newsweek.com or really a variety of mainstream media sources, but I'm just going to read a bit of it to you. It says Stormy Daniels had formed an exploratory committee for a run in Louisiana in 2009 after Republican incumbent David Vitter, a staunch defender of so-called family values, was caught in a prostitution ring. A few college students had wanted to run an adult entertainer against Vitter and selected Daniels to give it a shot, the Bayou Brief reported. So, she's kind of been in the political realm for a while now. This Trump thing isn't the first time. And that's what, just the more I look at that about her, the more suspicious I'm becoming in regards to where her allegiances really, truly are. I think that it's horrible the way that she's been threatened. I think that it's good that she has decided to speak up, but I feel like, just like Michael Avenatti, actually, she's held a lot back. Yeah, she has a book out. Yes, I will read the book, but I think that there's still some things that she's not saying, just as I feel that there's things that Michael Avenatti is not saying that could be of tremendous benefit to the Democrats. I think that it's very possible that Avenatti is aware of some other adult entertainers, porn stars, sex workers who have had contact with some politicians. I think that if he is aware and he's holding back that information, I think that it's very selfish of him and very self-centered. I think someone does need to check to see if there's a tie in any capacity between Stormy Daniels and Dennis Hoff, because when I look at a lot of the things that she's done politically or within the political realm, and I look at certain stunts that Dennis Hoff has pulled, they tend to parallel one another. So I think that there could be a connection there, and someone definitely needs to look into that. But I think that Stormy Daniels really is going to end up just fading away at this point because she's put herself at too much risk. And she's always really kind of struck me as a relatively self-serving individual, considering that she's been in the porn industry as long as she has, and she's been aware in regards to how many just horrific crimes against women take place within the porn industry, but she's never really said much about that. So I think that she's just going to end up fading away. I noticed that there was a news story posted today in regards to Donald Trump seeking another dismissal when it comes to her federal lawsuit. It depends on the judge, of course, but I think it's likely that he will get it. And I think Stormy will be just fine with it because she's got her book put out now. She's attained quite a bit of fame. And I think that in her core, she's a Republican more so than anything else. Why do I think this? Well, because her mother was on the news basically saying that she told her daughter to give it a rest and that she likes Donald Trump. I mean, look at Stormy Daniels' own daughter. Stormy Daniels' daughter looks quite a bit like some of the Trump children. Maybe someone should actually do a DNA test to check that out too. But yeah, Avenatti, he doesn't seem like he's ready for a presidential run at this stage from my perspective. I think that he would be a tremendous presidential advisor. I think that there's quite a few things in life that he could find success within. He already has quite a bit of success. But it's just some of the moves that he's made and things that he's said that have really rubbed me the wrong way. For example, he's touting his, some sort of a mention that Steve Bannon stated in regards to him on some sort of a talk show. And it's like, why are you even giving any credibility to a man with white supremacist ideals? Because that's who Steve Bannon is. He's a white supremacist, okay? Anything that comes out of his mouth, from my perspective, holds zero credibility. And now, from what I can see, Michael Avenatti has put together something called Fight Pack. It's his little political activist committee, I suppose. And it's like, really? After Donald Trump just went on his Twitter stating that he feels Democrats are not capable of leadership due to being dangerous, and I think he said violent, you're going to put together something called Fight Pack to further solidify in the eyes of people who might be on the fence that Democrats are inciting violence. And then you're going to make your hashtag Fight Club. Really, Michael Avenatti? So I do kind of wonder, who is Michael Avenatti really? A part of me really likes him, but another part of me is looking at him like, no. I think that you're going a little bit too far. So I don't know. I just felt like talking about him today and sharing my thoughts, sharing my concerns. So that's about it for this particular podcast of Alexandra Mayers, Just Some Thoughts. I'll catch y'all later. And I guess I'll do a little bit of painting this evening. We'll see. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is, wherever you are. Welcome once more to another podcast of Alexandra Mayers, Just Some Thoughts. Now, this particular podcast, I'm basically putting out there as a favor to a new friend of mine. I'm just going to refer to him as Mike. He's someone who works in the music industry and who is married to a woman who, like myself, is an ex-adult entertainer. To protect her anonymity, I'm just going to call her Anne. Okay? So last night I was talking to Mike and Anne Anne disclosed a situation to me that she went through when she was working in the adult entertainment industry, and she practically begged me to publicize this because it all revolves around a woman known as Kelly Roberts, who is a publicist. And for quite a few years now, Kelly Roberts has basically created a giant lie in regards to who she is. She's nothing more than a paper tiger. No one needs to be intimidated by her or scared of her. But over the years, she has done some terrible things to people. And this young woman, Anne, whose story I'm going to relate to you, basically could have had quite the career in the adult entertainment industry, but she wound up not, simply because of what it did to her. So it's a wild story. So sit back, grab some tea, and just listen. So before Anne had her eyes opened and everything as to how the world really is and how the world works, when she was a teenager, she got sucked in to white supremacist circles. And she started routinely posting on white supremacist forums such as Stormfront and the Daily Stormer, things like that, right? Well, get this. Apparently, the porn industry publicist known as Kelly Roberts routinely posts on these forums as well. Why? An effort to recruit young white women into the adult entertainment industry. No joke. This is what Anne related to me. So anyway, Anne and Kelly Roberts, they connect on this white supremacist forum, and Kelly offers to connect her into the porn industry to do some shoots. So Anne's like, great. Anne's under the impression that she's going to be the next Jenna Jameson. She's really excited. Now, the first couple of shoots that she did, she told me seemed professional. You know, she liked the way that the stills looked. She felt like, you know, it was, I would say, vivid or Wicked Pictures quality content.
But then when she gets to shoot number 3, she's asked to do a 5-guy interracial gangbang. Yeah. Now, this girl, Anne, she refused. And when she refused, that was when Kelly Roberts told her that if she did not do the shoots that she had booked, which were all interracial from there on out, she was going to send the content that she'd already shot, which was fairly mild, to her family members, to her regular employer, and she even referenced the website Porn WikiLeaks. So, a lot of what this girl said, even though the story might sound wild to a lot of you, it really reflects a lot of what's gone on with that Porn WikiLeaks website over the years. Now, pretty much everyone that I got to know after my time as an adult industry performer in the industry, they all told me that the way that they view this Kelly Roberts is she's a leper, she's a pariah. No one really wants her around. Her style of marketing and her style of trying to publicize people is very outdated. It's like she's from the early 90s or something. It's weird. But she does tend to blackmail people in effort to get them to work with her. She threatens them. And one of the reasons that I know that Anne's story is not BS is because a lot of the details that she shared actually reflect what someone known as Dave of the Luxury Companion has told me about Kelly Roberts as well. Now, this young woman, Anne, she told me that even after she had completely walked away from the industry, years later, she heard from this Kelly Roberts again, trying to pull her back into the industry because apparently there was someone who, I guess you would have to label him a John. He wasn't a legitimate producer who wanted to see her. And Kelly was trying to hook up essentially a private with this girl, Anne, and this contact. We'll just call him John, who she knew. Now, Anne turned this down and, well, if you don't want to play ball, then I'm just going to get my personal Hitler on your case. Now, I find that term, personal Hitler, very interesting because that guy Dave from the Luxury Companion specifically told me that Kelly Roberts referred to Donnie Long as her personal Hitler. So this guy Mike, who married this girl Anne, Anne didn't really want to tell Mike about what was going on, but after she did, Mike wound up doing a background check on this woman, Kelly Roberts, and I got to see quite a few pages of the background check. And what's interesting is that from what I can see, Kelly has had some brushes with the law over the years. But what I find to be most concerning is that over, I'd say, a 25-year span, she has been institutionalized. In other words, she's been put into a mental facility. The longest amount of time that she was in there, from what I can see, was about 2 months. But, that's why I say dealing with the adult entertainment industry just is not worth it in any capacity. Not at all, because not only are you dealing with criminals, but you're dealing with people who are evidently literally crazy. All right. Now, I've known for quite some time that it's Kelly Roberts who has written blog after wiki about me on that notorious hate crime, right? Because her style of writing, even though she tries to mask it, is very easy to spot. But just knowing that she essentially is involved in sex trafficking too, and has the nerve and the audacity to make empty threats to people in order to try to blackmail them. These weird claims that she makes, be it anonymously or even using her alias, Kelly Roberts, of being able to sick Randazza Legal Group on somebody, please. Randazza Legal Group doesn't want anything to do with Kelly Roberts. I actually know that for a fact. So it's just scary. This is a very scary person. So I just wanted to share that little bit of information with all of you, not only as a favor to my friend, but just to, the women out there who are gung ho about working in the industry, because I'm not going to tell you not to do it anymore. And I'm sure as hell not going to try to save you or anything. But when it comes to someone who's been in and out of mental institutions, I do have to say, don't enable that particular person. Find another publicist, maybe Erica Icon, even that TRPWL douchebag, but just that Kelly Roberts, absolutely not. She's insane, apparently, literally insane. So I might do a follow-up to this because there's also some information that I've been meaning to get to that goes back to a adult entertainer who was known as Candace Kane, but I probably won't talk about that for a while. So take care, everyone. Have a good one. Thanks once more for listening to Alexandra Mayers. Just some thoughts. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, whatever time it is, wherever you are. Welcome once more to another podcast of Alexandra Mayers. Just some thoughts. Woo! There is something very strange in the air today. Something very weird is going on. Now, last night, and I shared some thoughts via this podcast and on the show I host, Porn News Today Live, in regards to Michael Avenatti, Stormy Daniels, aka Stephanie Clifford's attorney. Now, in my podcast yesterday, my audio-only podcast over here, I had some concerns in regards to Michael Avenatti. But then I thought about it again, and I decided to actually share a suggestion that I felt would help him in regards to how the porn industry actually could be quite a tremendous ally to Michael Avenatti, if there are actually any pornographers who are Democrats out there. And I shared that in my Porn News Today Live video podcast. I wonder if he saw that video podcast. I'm not so sure because today I take a look at Twitter, right? And I guess Michael Avenatti, who is a very good potential candidate for president of the United States, from my perspective, he has challenged Donald Trump's son, Donald Trump Jr., to an MMA cage fight. I guess Avenatti was not joking when he called his political action committee Fight Pack. I guess he is not bluffing using the hashtag Fight Club. Is this a good idea? I'm on the fence because I do not condone physical violence in any way, shape, or form. However, should Donald Trump's son decide to accept this challenge, it would be in a regulated MMA cage fight, which I think would be just fine. This son of Trump, he likes to run around shooting helpless animals from what I've seen. So why not get into the cage and fight someone fist to fist? Yeah. As many of you know, I for spiritual reasons, I practice celibacy. But I'll tell you, I could go on forever practicing celibacy as long as Michael Avenatti stays on Twitter, because that man is a turn on. Woo! Let me just to you. It all started when Trump Jr. Tweeted the following: "Who else is excited about Avenatti / Weiner for 2020? Is going to be Carlos Dangerous." Now, he's referencing Anthony Weiner, who was a politician. And I'll tell you, Trump Jr., he's not very bright, because his own father could easily go down a far worse of a path than what Anthony Weiner had to take accountability for, considering what we know for a fact in regards to Trump Senior's liaisons with sex workers. So anyway, Michael Avenatti responds, "Biff, if I were you, the last thing I would be doing is referencing other people getting out of federal prison, because after you are indicted, you will be passing them on your way in. By the way, they don't have silver spoons or gold toilets in the joint. Buckle up, Buttercup." So then this other cat, and I don't even know who he is, Dylan Byers, jumps in and he tweets, "I'm having lunch with Michael Avenatti at the Vanity Fair Summit, and he's proposing a 3-round mixed martial arts fight with Donald Trump Jr. for charity. No joke." And then Avenatti says, "This would be for 2 great causes. I'm in." And then someone known as Queen of Ancapistan, I don't know who that is, but I'm going to have to check her out. She tweets, "Broke, debate me. Woke, fight me in real life." Yeah, yeah. Michael Avenatti, I still think he needs to watch it with labeling people old white men, because he is a middle-aged white guy from what he appears to be. But as I said in one of my previous podcasts about him, maybe he is an ethnicity that I've never seen before. I don't know. Maybe this man was genetically engineered in a secret lab, because he's got that sports model body. He's smart as hell. He's got those dreamy eyes. He was even brave enough to go ahead and do the buzz cut, shave his head because of a receding hairline, but he looks so much better. If you look at older pictures of him with the hair, it's like, nothing special. But with no hair, it's like, yeah. Are you a Caucasian Barack Obama? What's happening here? But yeah, so Donald Trump Jr., he got called out and he's in trouble. There's no way in hell he will agree to a cage fight. And I'll tell you why. Because Donald Trump Jr., from my perspective, if he at least has half a brain cell, he is well aware that the only reason that he's been kept around all these years is in case his father needs an organ donor in the future. Because he really doesn't seem to serve much other purpose from my perspective.
All right, everyone, that's enough for tonight. I'm going to go ahead and clean up. I got all the base layers laid on this particular painting. The color does not quite translate as it should over the video, but I'm going to post a still photo of this on @AlexMayersLive, and I'm hoping that by the end of this year I can get a website up for all of my art. Some of it will be for sale, some of it will not be. Some of it I might even put up for sale so that the profits can just go to charity. We'll see how it goes. But thanks everyone for listening to Alexandra Mayers Just Some Thoughts Archives. Thanks for watching me paint. I guess some of you out there enjoy watching paint dry, which is great. I guess maybe, I could be your Black female Bob Ross of today. All right. Everyone take care. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.